Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivered a keynote address at the Invest India conference in Canada. He talked about why countries should invest in India and why India is a land of opportunities for everyone to lead and grow. PM Modi talked about the relationship and the common interests that India and Canada share. We will discuss that all in detail in the next half an hour. We'll have guests also joining us. In fact, they are with us, Mr. Vishnu Prakash, former India ambassador to India, and Mr. Dilip Chinoy, who is Secretary General of FICCI. Welcome, both of you. Appreciate you joining us on DD India. But first of all, PM Modi explained the reasons that why India is the best market to invest and listed out the points to that how India is on its way to become self-reliant or Atmanirbhar Bharat.
In the post-COVID world, you will often hear of various kinds of problems. Problems of manufacturing, problems of supply chains, problems of PPP, etc. Problems are natural. However, India had not let those problems be. We showed resilience and emerged as a land of solutions.
Yeah, land of solutions, he said, not the land of problems. But PM Modi also pitched India as an ideal investment destination and pointed out many areas it provides as the best destination for investment.
What do you think about before investing in any country? Does the country have a vibrant democracy? Does the country have political stability? Does the country have investment and business-friendly policies? Does the country have transparency in governance? Does the country have a skilled talent pool? Does the country have a large market? These are different questions you may be asking. The undisputed answer to all these questions is one, and that is India.
Right, and if you listen to the keynote address closely, Prime Minister Modi underlined the rapid strides that the nation is taking in bringing structural reforms as well. And he added that India is undergoing a rapid change in mindset and also the markets. The Prime Minister added that it has embarked on a journey of deregulation and decriminalization of various offences under the Companies Act. He also highlighted the three major reforms that the government has undertaken recently, calling them the Trinity of reforms.
Today, the FDI regime has been very well liberalized. We have created a friendly tax regime for sovereign wealth and pension funds. We have undertaken significant reforms for developing a robust bond market. We have come up with incentive schemes for champion sectors. Schemes in sectors like in pharma, medical devices, and electronic manufacturing have already been in operation. We want to ensure high level attention and effective hand-holding for investors. For these, a dedicated, empowered group of secretaries has been made. We are proactively monetizing assets across sectors: airports, railways, highways, power transmission lines, so many. Real estate investment trusts and infrastructure investment trusts have been fully enabled for monetization of both public and private assets.
Right, and also in his keynote address, Prime Minister mentioned the strong people-to-people ties that culturally bind both India and Canada. The forum is giving Canadian business community a first-hand perspective of the opportunities to invest in India and showcases India as an investment destination.
India-Canada bilateral ties are driven by our shared democratic values and many common interests. The trade and investment linkages between us are integral to our multifaceted relationship. Canada is the 20th largest foreign investor in India. More than 600 Canadian companies have presence in India. I am told that Canadian pension funds have pledged around 50 billion US dollars as investment in India till now. Our relationship is perhaps far stronger than what the number suggests. But that also means together we can achieve much more. Canada is home to some of the largest and most experienced infrastructure investors. Canadian pension funds were the first ones to start investing directly in India. Many of them have already discovered great opportunities in a range of areas like highways, airport, logistics, telecom and real estate.
Right, together we can achieve much more. PM Modi also said that India is playing a role of pharmacy to the world. He said that we have been supplying medicines to around 150 countries, and that too during the pandemic. He also said that India has boosted its manufacturing of various medical equipments and PPEs.
India is playing the role of the pharmacy to the world. We have provided medicine to around 150 countries so far during this pandemic. During March, June of this year, our agriculture export rose by 23%. This happened while the entire country was stringent lockdown. Today, our manufacturing is running on full steam. Before the pandemic, India hardly manufactured PPE kits. Today, not only does India manufacture millions of PPE kits, every month it also exports them.
Right, very important and pertinent points and solid points, I should say, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi said. And we have two guests with us, eminent panel of guests are with us. Dilip Chenoy, who is Secretary General of FICCI, and also Mr. Vishnu Prakash, former India Ambassador to Canada. Sorry to keep you waiting for so long, Mr. Vishnu Prakash. If I can come to you first, very convincing speech, and PM Modi assured that there will be no barriers for them in India and they will find themselves as welcome as in their nation.
Oh, absolutely. It takes me back to Prime Minister's visit to Canada in April 2015 when I was the High Commissioner there. And his address to the business community, his interaction with the business community had created so much of enthusiasm that has been rewarded. Now $50 billion of Canadian investments, portfolio, greenfield, brownfield investments in India in the last 6 years cannot be scoffed at. But more than that, the best part is that some of the biggest Canadian companies, and here I'll mention Brookfield, which has a market cap of more than $250 billion, is becoming the largest investment in commercial estate in India. And Canadian pension funds have close to $1 trillion of corpus, which they want to invest in destinations like India, where there is a potential for long-term growth. So it is a very opportune time for enhancing, building on the relationship, economic relationship in particular between India and Canada. And Prime Minister's address today was right to the point, and he flagged all those issues, matters and aspects that are of concern or interest to the Canadian business community.
Right, very opportune point to invest in India. That's what Mr. Vishnu Prakash is saying. And Dilip Chinoy, if I can come to you, PM Modi clearly states the points for any country to invest in India, and transparency in governance, skilled talent pool, and also large markets. And the answer to all this is India. That's what he said. And he categorically made the points and gave the holistic view that why India is the ideal destination.
Yeah, I think absolutely right. And just as a coincidence, and you would have chosen both of us for a random list, I was also present in Canada, and we actually signed MOUs. Ambassador Prakash, remember, I was the CEO of NSTC at that point of time. And in Toronto, we signed those number of MOUs, and that actually laid the foundation for this cooperation. Although in between there was a slight blip in the relationship, but I think the Prime Minister going out and addressing this Invest India conference has changed the whole dynamics of the relationship, and his positioning India as an option for people to consider investment. He made actually two very significant points there. One is not only to consider investment, but second, he said the existing companies can expand and diversify. So if you look at the 600 Canadian companies that are here, there are in the pharmaceutical area. Of course, you mentioned the real estate area, then the technology area. They're even in the food area. And some of the largest Canadian food companies are invested in India. And his mentioning that you look at agriculture, you look at services, and you look at manufacturing as an option for India was a very positive step. And also saying that the pension funds that have invested, in areas like airports, the whole infrastructure sector, highways, can also find more opportunities, in investment in India. So a very positive message, very well delivered. And he also talked about the progress that we have made in the Global Innovation Index and also the ease of doing business rankings, where we went up from 142 to 63. In this. So I think a very, very positive message, very inviting message, saying that we have set up a system not only to invite you, but to handhold investments here through the empowered committee of secretaries.
Absolutely. We will talk about reforms also as we go further in our discussion, but rightly mentioned by you, sir, that existing companies can expand and identify too. But he also reiterated that India is a big opportunity for the manufacturers and the supporters of innovation. Mr. Chinoy?
Yes, his reference was in 2 or 3 different places. He said that the COVID issue was not seen as a problem. We were looking at it as a solution thing. When we didn't have the capacity to manufacture, the equipment, the PPEs and masks, we actually turned in and we are exporting. And of course, he commented on the Global Innovation Index moving from 81 to 48. And he said that we should look at solutions going forward. And of course, he said that if you're looking at education, look at India. If you're looking at manufacturing, look at India. If you're looking at services, look at India. And if you're looking at agriculture, look at India. So the whole thing was, and he talked about the future also.
Yeah. And Mr. Vishnu Prakash, a lot of Indians are staying in Canada, and if we look at this angle too, India is in fact a big opportunity for Indo-Canadians, and this is indeed, I think, the best time for India and Canada to improve its strategic and economic ties and to collaborate.
You are spot on, but even more than that is the fact that this image of Indians is very robust, positive and high in Canada. Indians are seen as hardworking, and they are preferring at the moment and for some time inviting highly skilled Indians over all other nationalities and countries, and Indians are adding a competitive edge to the Canadian businesses. And there are such success stories, and one of these success stories is relevant here, that of Fairfax Holding, a gentleman called Prem Vatsa, who is a votary of India. He started with $10. Today he's a billionaire, and he is investing heavily in India. So that is the kind of role that the Indian diaspora and the Indian business community, Indo-Canadian business community is playing. And the best part is that Canadians do appreciate, and which PM underlined, that if you look at the future, the kind of opportunities that India offers today, tomorrow, and day after are unprecedented.
Right, rightly said by you, sir. And you think it is the best time for India and Canada to improve its strategic and economic ties and to collaborate? You said that, you gave the answer to that. But Mr. Chinoy, the India-Canada relations are built upon commitment to democratic values, pluralism, and strong people-to-people connect. That's what PM Modi also mentioned. And Canada has until now found various synergies that form the strong foundation that both countries share. And this was highlighted when there was a high-profile visit by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to India to meet PM Modi in 2018.
Yes, so I think this is a continuum of engagement.
Yeah.
One. Second, something which was actually done in the budgets, which he talked about in terms of, the tax reduction, the preference given to pension funds to invest without a taxation. So a lot of this was actually, geared towards the Canadian pension funds. I think in his speech he talked about the pension fund multiple times and the investments they've done and what the opportunities are there going ahead. So I believe that this, like I said earlier, that this would be a turning point in the relationship, because the Prime Minister directly addressing a group of investors in Canada and inviting them to come into India, and of course saying that we also have other areas of collaboration. And he talked about the vaccine kind of thing, how we can actually do something in the vaccine area. He offered the gift city, saying that it is a preferred globally. He wants to make it a global center, and it's very investor friendly. So I think a lot of positive messages in the whole speech. Really, even if you're not a Canadian investor, you would be encouraged to invest in India, because a lot of the things are common across countries.
And Mr. Vishnu Prakash, Mr. Chinoy mentioned about the Canadian pension funds that they are investing billions of dollars in India. So education, energy, and green tech offer unlimited opportunities for collaboration. You think it is a strong point?
Yes, it is a strong point, and Canada has considerable strengths in green and clean technologies, and Indian kids are gravitating towards Canada in large numbers. In fact, the numbers are overwhelming, but that is also opening up doors for collaboration between Indian and Canadian educational institutions and applying the best practices. But again, coming back to the Canadian funds, what they are investing at the moment, which I mentioned in substantial quantities and amounts, is infrastructure,
right,
and in portfolio investments, and that kind of infrastructure investments is what we need. And since they are flushed with funds, and they have also seen a certain country which they were quite attracted to. They have seen their behavior, they have seen how that certain country has reacted. They understand that if you're looking at large markets, large countries with a good buying power and a good future prospects, that's India.
In fact, sir, I've pulled out the details too. Canada has a large Indian population that PM Modi also mentioned, where within its total population of over 37 million people, there are over 1 million Canadians of Indian descent. And in terms of the economy, last year Canada did more than 4.5 billion Canadian dollars worth of trade with India, making the country Canada's 9th largest export market. I was reading it somewhere, but there is potential to further strengthen links between both regions, especially now with COVID-19. There has been a further push for digital transformation. Mr. Chinoy?
Yeah, I think, the Prime Minister actually said something very interesting. He said that the trade figures don't actually reflect the relationship, and of course, then, saying that they also don't reflect the possibilities of the future. I think it is very, very well recognized that with this type of a new, arrangement and a new thing that we are focusing with Canada, starting with the Prime Minister's address today, it is significantly, going forward, is possible to significantly increase both the investments into the infrastructure sector, like Ambassador Prakash talked about, and also, new companies looking at taking advantage of the education, liberalization. Actually, if Ambassador Prakash remembered, if he talked about why Canadians are not investing at that time, they said your labor laws were an issue. You had no transparency on infrastructure funding. I think today, when the Prime Minister said he followed a trinity of reforms in agriculture, labor and education. So, and these were labor and education were top of the Canadian demands, at that point of time. So a lot has happened in the last 5 months to dramatically change the landscape in India for the Canadian investors and the Canadian companies interested in India. And his address, direct address to the investors there, actually gave a one-on-one communication to them, and they got at first hand, what is happening in India and what the positivity in India is going forward, and what are the opportunities to invest in India.
Right, as you mentioned, sir, he mentioned, PM Modi mentioned about the structural reforms to the rapid strides, like you also said, the nation is taking in bringing structural reforms. And if we talk about education, he said more and more foreign universities to come to India, and major push has been in agriculture too. But Mr. Vishnu Prakash, if I can come to you again, we are running short of time actually. Very shortly, sir, what do you make of this PM's address, keynote address? What is the strong point, and what do you think, what point and what all the points will help India to become self-reliant and Atmanirbhar Bharat?
Well, the strength of Prime Minister's address is that he goes straight to the point. He talks of aspects which go to the heart of the relationship. Yeah. And for the Canadians, whether it is democracy, whether it's a diaspora, whether it's a social safety net, and Prime Minister is mentioning that more than 400 million people were provided support, is something that the Canadians appreciate. And then certainly the environment and the business community and the business opportunities. So I think it was a wholesome address, it was a timely address, and it was a well-structured address. And Prime Minister is known to be a person who speaks from the heart, and that is very well received in Canada, and for that matter in other countries.
Right, Mr. Chinoy, very, very briefly, closing points from you.
No, I think just to echo what Ambassador Prakash said, a very timely address, a very directed and specific address to the interests of the investors in Canada,
right,
and making two broad points. One, there is affinity between the two countries. We have shared values. The trade figures don't reflect our potential. There is a lot can be done. There are already Canadian companies here. They need to expand and diversify. And there's a lot of opportunity for new firms to expand. And I think the $50 billion that has been invested in the Canadian pension funds in India have the opportunity to actually expand going forward.
Absolutely, opportunities to expand going forward. Thank you so much, sir. We'll end it here. Mr. Dilip Chinoy and Mr. Vishnu Prakash, thank you for speaking to us. Thanks for your time. So, PM Modi said that mature Canadian investors can be best brand ambassadors too, and urged to support our efforts to become self-reliant or Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's all we have in this special broadcast. Stay tuned for more news and updates. Namaskar.